One. Hi, Carol. Thank you so much for joining me today. So just so I have everything correct, you are licensed in Florida, right?
That's correct.
Nice. And you work
Okay.
mostly with women who are like overachievers, like the overgivers essentially, and like also women that are recovering from narcissistic relationships and abuse. Right.
Yes.
Mhm. So what kind of got you started on
Mm.
like your therapy journey of being a therapist and getting you to this as your flow client?
Wow. I don't know if we have enough time to go into all of that, but to make a long story short, I was married to a very narcissistic type person for 20 years. Yes. And that getting out of that relationship and recovering from that relationship, at first I felt like no one should ever have to go through this again. And that was my reason for wanting to become a therapist, was so that no one would ever have to do this again. But then reality set in and said, people are going to go through this.
Yeah.
So be there to help them, be the one who can come alongside and empathize and understand and give them a safe place where they can feel seen and heard, because that was so much what I did not have. I did not have that at all when I was in that relationship. So that
Huh.
was very important to me. Mm.
Yeah, I think it's for the hard part too. Like when people are in like any type of abuse relationship, really, it's the isolation and peace. And like trying to find your way out of the isolation can be daunting.
Especially when it is something that the other person is trying to isolate you and keep you separate from, away from other people. It makes it even that much more difficult to trust people, to know who you can trust, and to find a safe place, a safe person. Makes it very difficult.
Yeah, just like for your own journey, like how were you able to find your way out?
And it was it was a long journey. It was a long journey. One of my friends said to me, "Carol, this is not about you." And that really hit home for me and made me realize that it was not, this was not all on me. Yes, I'm not perfect. So yes, were there things I did wrong? Of course. But the the narcissistic behavior, that was not me. That was not who I am. And so that, finding my way through, actually, I started by going through a course called divorce care. And there was no one in my area who was teaching the course. So I said, "Oh, I'll just teach it because that's who I am. And so I'll just teach it. We'll all learn together." And I did that for several years. And then I added some other courses on that I was teaching, added to them about finding peace within yourself and being content with who you are. So I was actually teaching myself how to do. I was also in counseling too. I did a lot of therapy with several different therapists, and it was that was really helpful just to go on that journey. Those things, I had a lot of support. I didn't realize I had at the time, but as I started to reach out, I realized that there were people in my church. My pastors were supportive of me, and that really helped me,
That's
because if I had been in the church where I grew up back home, there would have been no support. So that was a surprise to me, that these pastors actually encouraged me and helped me to find my way as a new single mom with 3 teenagers. It was not easy. It was not easy. Yeah.
yeah. I think being a single parent at any age isn't easy. Like about how old your kids are, because there's always that piece of, especially if there are any activities, like how do I get them from A to B? from school if I had to work and all the things, especially if you weren't by family. Like he was there to help pick up the pieces.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I did not have family support. I didn't they never supported my marriage to begin with, and my family was not supportive of divorce. So that added more difficult layers on top of it. That whole thing of just coming out of that era of where divorce is a no-no and you just stick it out. And if you're the one to get the divorce, that means you're the one who was the problem. You couldn't be successful in your marriage. It was your fault. So there was a lot of hurdles to overcome there. A lot of hurdles. Yeah.
You like definitely overcame a lot. It's like whenever you're working with your clients, like what's like your biggest piece of advice or like skill that you help them gain?
I think that depends on who the client is and where they're at in in their relationship. Most of them are have already left the relationship and they're trying to recover. They're in the process of recovery. But finding peace within, I think, is one of the hardest things. We blame ourselves. We think, if I had only done this, I should have done, I should have seen, I should have known. And it's hard. If I had only stayed a little bit longer, or I should have given them another chance. Accepting that I the person that I married was not the person that I thought I married.
Kind of, and I like to let the shoulds thing because I feel like the should is what gets you tripped up all the time and everywhere in life. I should be doing this. I should be making more money. I
Mhm.
should be exercising more. I should be eating right. I should, I should. I feel like those shoulds are like get us trapped in like anything that's bad for us because like we feel like we have to be there because of societal pressures.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's hard to get out of it because we loop it in our mind over and over again. And that's where the anxiety comes in. It's okay. So those two things really go hand in hand, the recovering from a toxic relationship and all the anxiety that we carry that goes along with that. The belief that it's my fault, that I should have done, I did something wrong. I married the wrong person. Maybe the wrong person showed up and I- they presented themselves as one thing. And then it's that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They
Yeah.
presented themselves as one person. But when you got deeper into the relationship, that I don't know who this person is. And now I don't know how to get out of this. And with the gaslighting and the manipulation, the control, the isolation, those types of things, it can make it. And then when you add in the factor of having children, it makes it even more difficult.
Yeah.
And then children can become a pawn or they become weapons. And that makes it even more difficult.
Yeah. It's very true because like kids, unfortunately, they get the short end of the stick a lot of times and like in those divorces because whoever their respective partner was, like they're usually the ones that try to manipulate the kids against the parent that got them out of it. To bring it back
Mhm.
into the fold essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that can be very obvious that's what they're doing. And sometimes it can be very insidious. And that's when it gets that it's, I want to say, dangerous for the partner who's trying to leave. And because it becomes a mental, how do I want to say this? It's like a mental warfield.
Yeah, it is because
And
like like they're like trying to balance like their own emotions, their children's emotions, while being nurturing and kind and caring to their children, while also putting up a boundary and a space distance between the narcissistic partner they're trying to get away from. It's definitely a
mhm,
challenge. And then
yeah,
if you have any lawyers in the mix for family court, that's the whole other ball of wax too, because you have lawyers and judges and all the things you're trying to balance.
yes. Yeah. I was fortunate that my kids were already teenagers. And by the time we were finally through the divorce. My youngest was 16. So that was, I didn't have to go through that, but I have walked through some of that with some of my clients. And yes, it can be very devastating, and knowing how to maneuver through all of that, just even making the decision in the very beginning, do I stay for the children and become the line in the sand where I'll just stay until the last one's 18th birthday or 21 or whatever, and then I'm gone. And we put up with it. We figure out ways. I never tell a client that they should leave. I don't think that's my place to do that, to say you're in a tough, unless they're being physically threatened, where there's harm involved. That's one that's different. But if they're in where there's in a situation where there's other circumstances, it's not a blanket statement of, oh, yeah, if you're in a toxic relationship, you need to get out. There are a lot of circumstances. It's different for each person. And part of that therapy is working through that and figuring out how important are those things. Where are those lines in the sand that you would draw and say, okay, I will accept this, but I won't accept that? How far do we go? And then knowing your own personal boundaries. So very challenging.
And challenging. I guess I do a lot of like relationship work in a way. Like I have a couple couples I work with, but not to that extreme, but still definitely like a balancing, like trying to balance between the kids and all the things and like knowing when is enough and enough for a lot of people and how to express that stuff too. And especially for someone that's not very understanding. So lack of a better term. Getting making sure like you're staying safe too. Like super hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely challenging, and learning how to maneuver through that. And it's not, it's not, I go to therapy for 5 sessions or 6 sessions and woohoo, I'm good. This type of therapy is usually long term, because typically a toxic person was going to fight back in some way. It might be physical, but it might be verbal, but it also might be just mental. And that mental, emotional can really take a toll on us. And it takes a while to work through all of that, to find yourself again, to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and say, it doesn't matter what you say or what anyone else says. Like the culture that I grew up in was, no, we don't do that. But I was like, I'm going to, because this is not sustainable. This relationship is not sustainable. This is killing me. And I cannot continue to do this. So if you don't approve, that's on you. You have to figure that out.
But then you're right, especially like for anyone that's like older too. Like their parents definitely were like, "You stay, you tough it out."
Yes.
Both of my grandparents, their marriages were not happy marriages, and I saw it as a kid. But they grew up. They were born in the 20s. They grew up in the Great Depression. Both my grandfathers fought in World War II. There's you don't leave. And I was like,
Yeah.
till like for as long as I was alive, as like apparently I really say it was worse before I was born. But my paternal side, my grandparents didn't even sleep in the same bedroom. They ate meals together. They did some things together, but then there's like my grandma did one thing, like my grandfather did another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're setting the model that this is how life is. And that's just what we do. But there's no quality of life there. There's a quality of life that's missing. And what I found was that being in a toxic relationship, always walking on eggshells, never knowing what for sure what's coming next. Oh, I had a good idea. You learn the patterns, you identify the patterns, but you don't know when. And so that's where the walking on eggshells comes from. And what I have seen, interestingly enough, I've been observing my children as they've gotten older, and now they're married or in relationships, and I'm watching the fallout that happened years ago when they were a child, and watching the mental, emotional, relational piece that is taking its toll on them and the things that they have to overcome. And I guess probably if there's, I try not to live with regret. And I still go back and I'll say I made the best decision I could in the moment. I decided to stay and because of my kids. And I think that overall, I made a really good decision. It's done. I can't undo it. But having looking at it 20 years down the road, so when we were married for 20 years, it's now been 20 years since we've been divorced. And I'm looking back now to see my kids as adults and seeing the mental and emotional struggles that they go through because of living with a narcissistic type father. That gives me pulse. And that's when I want to say, maybe I need to rethink this, telling people it's up to them whether they stay or not. And maybe it's because we can't see the long term effects in the moment. But it is something that it does give me conversation now because I have seen that in my own relationships and looking at other people and talking with other people, their kids and how they are doing, realizing that is something that we need to think about and take into consideration.
Yeah. And I also think like the emotional and the mental abuse is so much worse than physical because that lingers so much longer than the physical. Because the physical, it's not just physical. No matter like what it is, it's always also the mental part to it. Because like you lose your feeling of safety, you feel like you lose your love, and but the physical injury heals faster than the mental one. And like kids, especially if they're in it for like a long time, like there's just numerous studies on it, of like how it affects their brain, and it takes a long time to heal that. But honestly, you're staying because like you physically can't leave because of money or family or whatever the situation is. It's just a matter of finding supports in the moment for the kids and for yourself too, that you can get to
Mhm.
lessen the lifelong impact. Is kind of what I'm still trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So for a lot of that, what I find is that we put ourselves into our kids then. I find that I'm not the only one who did that. That seems to be a very common pattern then. If I'm going to stay, even if I don't stay and I have kids, then it becomes I have to take care of my kids because it's me and the kids. I'm a single mom. But even if I do stay, it's still like I'm a single mom because I don't have the support of a matter of fact, and not only do I not have support, I have pushback against the positive things that I'm trying to put into my life. There's that resistance that's there and trying the positive things I'm trying to put into my kids' life. And so that's where that overcompensating and trying to give your kids the things that the quote unquote normal things that they they're not getting, that we tend to go overboard in wanting the best for our kids knowing that they're not getting it, so we try for it in other areas of life, and then of course we know that doesn't really usually work out really well in the end. In the long term, they still have mental emotional issues.
I mean, they also to just the world we live in, everyone has them in some way too. But just
True.
like regardless of not that anyone has really the perfect childhood or perfect family life, because everyone has issues. But that's exactly it. Like you just do what you can to lessen the impact as much as you can while trying to stay safe as much as possible.
One of the really interesting things that I read along the way, and I haven't checked up on the statistics on it in a long time to see if they're still saying the same thing or not, but it was that the mom, the kids will always come back to blame the mom. And I was like, what? You're the one who's protecting them. You're the one who's making sure that they get to take those extracurricular activities, and you're the one who's driving them there and picking them up and doing all the extra things to provide normal for them. And they're going to turn around and blame you. And for the longest time, I could not, I had a hard time fathoming that. And then it happened. And it's been an interesting journey because I have clients who are as older women where their children are now grown and coming into their own, dealing with their own trauma journey. And then they come back and say, you, you didn't, you, but they don't know the whole story because they were kids. They
Right.
don't know. And they saw it from a kid's perspective, and they and don't always ask either. So that's been interesting to see that statistic that I learned a long time ago seems to be holding true. It doesn't always show up in the beginning, but somewhere in there. And I hope that a lot of it depends on the child and their, now the adult child, and their recovery journey. If they can get to that point of getting some help and getting some therapy, and then looking at it maybe from a different perspective, and being able to see that the parent stayed or the parent left for very good reasons. And it was not usually impulsive. There's a lot of thought that goes into taking care, whether I should go or whether I should stay, and take how best to take care of my children.
Yeah, it is really true. And I think part of it too is like society puts all the pressure on mom. Like mom is the one that does a lot of this stuff. Like mom has to be the protector. One mom has to provide the nurturing, the love, and safety, and all the things. And yes, moms do have to do that, but so do fathers. And whenever fathers aren't also the ones doing it, and that's where there's more issues. Like both parents have to be doing the love, nurturing, safety, protection, piece in some way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your preferred like treatment modality then, like when you're working with your women that you mainly work with?
I like CBT is my preferred, but I don't use it all the time. I'm pretty eclectic. I like narrative, because I think a lot of it is about story. So trauma informed mindfulness. We talk a lot about the inner child, doing inner child work, and finding yourself, which involves that inner child. But so it's pretty eclectic, and I like to meet my clients where they're at. I'm also fairly open about sharing my story. I, with my clients, selective but open. I don't go into lots of details, but letting them know that I have been there, and then I do understand. That's one of the things that is really, as someone recovering from narcissistic abuse or toxic relationships, they're very sensitive to the need of being heard and understood, of being validated. And
Yeah.
it's extremely important. So being able to have that connection, and for them to know that oh, you know what this is. And I have clients say, oh, I don't have to tell you. So that it validates them, and then it helps to bond that relationship and for them to feel free that they can speak freely and without judgment or criticism. Yeah,
That's so huge. Do you ever incorporate like any like mind body work, especially like if there have been any like domestic violence situations?
I do that all the time. And I think I just do it automatically without thinking about it, because so much of this has been my own journey that I do. I really talk a lot about, for me, mind body, or the mindfulness part of it, is a lot of it is meditation and journaling. And I talk a lot about those things, breathing, and not just breathe in, breathe out, but we have all kinds of different breathing techniques. And I have different breathing apps that I use, and breath work to help regulate, and getting them into a routine of meditating and then journaling behind it. If I meditate, and then I do stream of consciousness journaling, which is just writing down whatever thoughts come to my mind. And I do that after I meditate. And that it's almost going to therapy. It's like starting my day with my own therapy session. So I will choose a meditation, a guided meditation, and then from there, I will just start writing when that's over. And I just write out my thoughts and go inward and reflect. And I encourage my clients to do that. It's such Therapy is typically 1 hour, one session a week, 1 hour a week. There's a whole lot more hours in the week where they need sustenance to be able
Right.
to support. And oftentimes you don't have that support immediately when you leave, because you have been isolated from people. And the people who were your friends are now like, no, I'm not sure that I want to have a relationship with you anymore, because he's still feeding those negative thoughts into those people who you thought were your friends. So oftentimes it's like starting from scratch all over again. So going inward and finding the strength within yourself, finding peace within yourself. A tagline that I've recently added was, because every woman deserves peace of mind. And that is the tagline. Every woman deserves peace of mind. And when we start there, if I can have peace within, now I that gives me an opportunity to be at peace with people who are I come in contact with. I can be at peace with them because I'm at peace with myself.
Yeah. That is so huge. You're right. And I think it's kind of like an energy thing in a way too. If you're like, when you meditate and you kind of do stream of consciousness, like you're like clearing out all the negativity that came up during the meditation, and you're just like going into the world like with positivity that you need so you can stay positive and even handle tough situations without going into like spirals essentially because you're already cleared out.
Yeah. Yeah. But that doesn't mean things don't come up. And so sometimes I tell them it might mean that we're going to take in the middle of the day, you might need a quick refresher. Yeah. Just do some breathing. Just do some quick breathing to self regulate. Okay. So I'm going to need to walk away. Give yourself a timeout if you
Yeah.
need to. Give yourself a timeout. Walk away from a situation and let them know I'll be back by, even if it is saying, just excuse myself, I need to go to the restroom, but I really need to go back and
Just
calm
breathe.
myself, get centered again, and say, okay, I can do this. Or to say, you know what, this is too much for me. I'm going to go say, can we continue this conversation later? I need some time. I need more time. And that's how we do that. We give them the tools of how to communicate in those situations and stand firm. I'm setting my boundaries and I'm going to hold to my boundaries and then let it go. I tell my clients, I am 100% responsible for me. And you and everyone else out there, unless they're kids, are 100% responsible for themselves. So that partner or whoever that person might be that's coming up against you, they are 100% responsible for themselves. I am not responsible for their words, their actions, their thoughts, their attitude, not mine to carry. And if I can remember that in that situation, then I can stand firm within myself. I am responsible for me, for what I say, what I do, how I respond, my attitude. And if I need to step away from, that's okay. I can do that. And I will
That's
do
so true.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So keep in mind like what you can't control, what you can't control. And the biggest thing that we
Mhm.
can control is ourselves and how we
Yes.
respond to situations.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's really basic, but yet it's so liberating to put that into practice and to learn that I can stand up for myself. I can be firm. I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be cruel. And I don't have to argue. I can just say, this is it. This is who I am, and that's the line. That's it. That's all. And I
Right.
can walk away and be at peace with myself. Those are goals. We don't get there. We don't get there, like I said, in 5 or 10 sessions, but those are goals that we strive for along the way. Sometimes they don't even know that those are the goals that they need. But as we progress through and they start realizing that, oh yeah, that's what I really need.
And it's trying because like your clients are also like the overachievers, like the overgivers, like they want to get to the end goal like super, super fast, not realizing that baby stepping it is the best way to make long lasting change. And like the main
Mhm.
goal is to baby step it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it's like I don't have to be in control of everything. I, as that overachiever, I want to take control and I want to push it forward. I want to make sure that it happens. And if that's not my job to do that, it's not my place to fix people and it's not my place to fix everything. But
In that room and like moving forward, let's say leave that relationship or even if they choose to stay from that point on, it's my job to get myself better slowly so it can last a lifetime. And then if they have kids, they can help their kids do the same thing. They can take the kids on that journey with
yes,
them.
yes. One of the things that I write at the end of my journaling, I write it every day. I will put this phrase, I set myself up to be successful every day by, and then it changes every day, whatever it is that I'm thinking about today that is going to make me successful. And I'm not thinking monetarily successful. This is just thinking about being successful in life. It might be today I set myself up to be successful today by setting boundaries, by being at peace with myself, by not getting angry, whatever it is that has come up for me in my meditation and my journaling. And I think those are those little baby steps of growth that we realize that I'm growing every day. I'm becoming more and more successful. Some of the other things that I would write about, because I couldn't, in the very beginning, I couldn't say that I loved myself. I did not like myself at all. I would write, I but I knew that I was on a journey of healing. And so I would write at the end, I love who I am becoming. And it took me a long time to get to a point where I could say, I love who I am because I had done the hard work and I have recovered, always recovering. But I can talk about it. I've moved on from it. It's not the central piece in my life anymore. So I write at the end, I love who I am. I love who I am becoming. And then I set myself up to be successful every day by fill in the blank.
I I love
And
that. You know, it's not about just like monetary stuff. It's about who you are as a human being in the world, and going
Hmm.
out in the world every day is like a better person as you were yesterday, even by a smidge.
Yes. Yeah. By just becoming more aware of something, one thing, and that makes me a better person. Even if I don't act on it, I'd become aware of it, and that's better than not being aware at all.
At first, sounds like you have to be aware of something before you can take an action step on it. So, like,
Yes.
first awareness is the first step, and then actions after that. So, yeah, it's
Yes.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not always, as you said, they're not always massive actions. It's baby steps, those little steps that we say, okay, I got angry 3 times, but there was one time I didn't get angry today. That's an improvement.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 is better than 4 out of 4.
You're right. Mm. So yeah, we look for the small wins, and then we over time we find that we're able to stand firm in ourself, in who we are and who we have become. And I say who we are becoming.
Yeah, because if we're not growing and changing, then we're essentially dead. Because if once
Pretty
we stop
much.
changing, we're dead.
Yeah. Or on the way there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So, do you find that the clients that you work with, like, they need more validation than some of your other ones that are coming from like the overachieving, the anxious versus the one that's there for the narcissistic recovery?
I think they both need validation, but in different ways. And oftentimes that client is pretty much one and the same.
Well,
I present them as two different things because I think people are attracted sometimes because of the anxiety. They know that they have this anxiety, that they're this overachiever, wanting to control everything. And then, but oftentimes the women who are recovering from a toxic relationship, it's they're not as aware. That's one of their coping skills, is to be that overachiever. And it comes to light that they will admit that they like to control. They Because everything else in their life is out of control. So you want to control as much as you can. And
yeah,
that's one of the hard things to let go of. Yeah. So I think it goes hand in hand with it goes, yeah, it just comes together.
yeah, and definitely makes a lot of sense for everything like to go hand in hand. That's why I asked, is because I have a lot of overachieving clients as well, and they want to go from point A to point Z like in one session.
Yes.
It's not happening. But like whenever they come back to ball and leave, I did this, but I don't know if it's really right. And then it's literally talked about last session what you're supposed to do, and you did it. So no, that's a gold star. And they're like, oh, cool. Yes, like
Yeah.
you couldn't
Yeah.
get started. You won
Yes.
therapy today.
Yes.
You did the baby step.
And oftentimes they discount the small steps that they made along the way because it wasn't the finished product. They will discount. I did that, but yeah, that didn't count. It wasn't. You're like, hold up, wow, that was huge. It was? Yes, it was.
It's like that picture that you see of people that are trying to achieve goals. Like I see a whole lot on Facebook of where there's two ladders on side by side, and one ladder has like the bigger gap between the rungs, and a lot of person trying to reach for the next rung, and then there's the other second ladder where the rungs are like really close together, and someone's like
Hmm.
climb to the top faster because the rungs were closer. So like that too with
Yes.
therapy. Like you just need to take the small rungs, and like you get there faster because you're just baby stepping it faster instead of trying to do leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Because you can't go
Yeah.
from the ground and jump in 10 feet up in the air unless you're an awesome basketball player. It's not possible.
Yeah. And you have more stamina and more energy when you take the smaller steps. You can actually, it gives you time to look behind and look ahead and to acknowledge that this is where I'm at instead of leaping and grabbing onto something and I'm like just trying to choke and hold on desperately for dear life. But if I climbing steadily, then I have room to stop and to look around and to appreciate where I've come from and appreciate where I'm going as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's so true. And I think it's like a lot of women in the situations need to hear like the small steps are the big steps that you need to take.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And it's so satisfying and rewarding, not just for me, but for them when they recognize that they are actually taking these steps and that I was, they're recognizing the impact that the trauma has made on their life that they weren't even aware of before. To be able to see that and to recognize that, oh, wow, these people treated me like crap and I didn't even know it. I was so focused on this part of that one person who was treating me this way that I didn't realize that I was letting all these other people around me treat me that way too. And that has been just to come into that awareness, to be able to recognize your own personal growth and for them to come back and say, I have a win. I want to share.
Right?
I did this. It's so exciting. That's,
Yeah.
that's very, that makes therapy so worthwhile.
Yeah, it
I
does.
mean,
I love hearing the small wins for clients.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
good.
just it's amazing. It's like I feel like that's like the best thing for a therapist, at least for me versus like whenever they come to me like the next week, Kiara did this thing. I'm like, yay, you did it.
Yes.
You asked about it, you did it. And
Yeah.
like just a validation, like more so like they say, yes, like they had it like internally, but I also like here, yes, like you did the thing. Like you're moving forward. It's so huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that just feeds me in once and gives me that energy to say, yes, I know. I already knew that I'm on the right path, but it's like affirming it and saying, yes, I keep going.
Yeah.
And this is why I do what I do.
Same here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is awesome. Thank you for talking to me. So I have to end out every podcast with asking you how best do you prefer people to reach out to you if they like resonate with you and like when they learn more about you.
Okay. Sure. They can reach me through my website at Terrell. Oh, I'm gonna have to get that to you. It's terrell-l-roberts.com. They can reach me there, or they can reach me at aligncounseling@gmail.com. Hold up. I think it's Align Counseling Services. It is.
That's okay. We'll have I'll have the correct links and the description
Okay.
below for everyone to get. But
Thank you.
that's what it's nice for people to actually hear it from you too. But I'll have everything that you need down below as well.
Yeah. Thank.
You're welcome. Thank you so
I'm
much for
really.
being with me today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. Thanks a lot.